Hi guys, Freddy here. Welcome back to a new retro RPG. And at the end of another poll, we have another winner. And the clear winner this week was the Klingon Ship Recognition Guide for the Star Trek role-playing game by FASA. Now this came out in 1985. Now once I've covered that on the desktop, I'll be back at the end of the video with a few other channel related things and an update on the poll. So I hope to see you there. So this is the Star Trek Klingon Ship Recognition Manual for the Star Trek role-playing game from 1985. Now this is the second edition of it, and from what I can tell, the differences are slight, because the second edition is updated, because the first edition book came out before Star Trek 3. It came out after Star Trek 2, actually identified Star Trek 2 on the cover, even though there's no Klingon ships in Star Trek 2, The Wrath of Khan. But it included stuff up to the movie era. However, Star Trek 3 obviously introduced the Klingon Bird of Praise, scout ship. So this book has that in there, although it reuses it, much as the series does, but we'll come to that in a bit. Now, the cover I absolutely adore. It's a lovely cutaway picture of a Klingon ship. I adore cutaway pictures. They remind me of being a kid and opening up comics. The Eagle was in Britain, where they would show different planes and space shuttle and all that, with cutaways so you can see what the insides were like. Lovely, lovely stuff. I do question the amount of roominess that these pictures do show, because some of these rooms look absolutely massive for a ship of war. You would expect it to be a lot more cramped and crowded. It's very roomy. It's a bit of a luxury liner. And on the back cover, we've got another cutaway of the back of it showing the shuttle bays. And this is a D-20 Deathrite class, so the warp nacelles are along the main body with the wings separate. Very, very nice stuff. So the back cover, classified authorized personnel only. The Klingon Ship Recognition Manual is intended for Starfleet personnel with a need to know concerning information on the Imperial Klingon Navy. This comprehensive study discloses for the first time all known combat, visual, and historical data on 42 different Klingon ships and their variants. Also is included a chronology of service and a silhouette recognition chart. This manual is a must for all Star Trek enthusiasts. Now, like I did for the Federation Ship Manual, one of the reasons I love this is because I love blueprints. So we open up and we've got a contents page, an introduction, which is written in universe. So talking from an admiral about what you would use this for. The scope of the manual and dedication. Much of the information provided in this manual was acquired by the ships of Operation Dixie. This ill-fated intelligence mission successfully penetrated Klingon space, reported its findings until it was discovered and presumed destroyed. And we're straight in, and we've got sort of blueprint schematics of the ships. I love this kind of stuff. This is why I got this book, even though I wasn't really playing the Star Trek role-playing game, because I wanted Klingon schematics. This was fantastic. It's very, very similar in that it uses a lot of kind of kit bashing to create new designs of ships. Now, most of them tend to be like the standard Klingon ship out of the movies, with the bridge section on the front of a long neck, body with engines mounted out on struts. So we're going to see a lot of that kind of design, but they do play around with it. So we've got the T3 Mover class assault ship here, where it's got its engines mounted forward. It looks a bit aggressive. Then we've got the T5 Throne Seeker, which I'm guessing is a troop-carrying ship, because it's got a much larger body. And again, it kind of plays around with the standard design, but stays within what you would kind of expect. But then we come to another one, where the engines are really struck out forward. It strikes me like the legs of a cat or dog or something as it sat, reached out ahead of its head. But again, just playing around with that standard design. Now, obviously, these are kind of kit bashed, so we've got the nacelles of the standard Klingon ships. The bridges are similar, but somewhat different. Now, the T3 Mover and the T5, they're obviously the same sort of bridge section as the standard Klingon vessel. And then we've got the L-13 Fat Man battleship. Now, I'm not sure how this qualifies as a battleship, because it doesn't look to have many more weapons than the standard Klingon ship would. It's just got a much heavier body. Perhaps it's more armoured, I don't know. And the engines are nicely placed kind of within the body, just emerging at the back there, protected from being shot at. I do like that. We've got the L-24 Ever Victorious class battleship, where they've updated it. So the head is recognisable as Klingon, but it's more angular. They're kind of taking the designs and making them a bit more high-tech, I guess, instead of the organic. But then we come on to the D7. Now this is the standard Klingon ship. We saw it back in the original series. We see it through to Next Generation. The very standard design. So what they've done, much like they did with the Federation, is put different models of it. We've got the A, C, G, M, R, and S variants here as they update it. So we've got ones which will go up against sort of Pikes, Enterprise, through Kirk's in the original series, up into the movies, and they don't quite take it as far as Next Generation, but they're taking it up throughout history. Now, one of the things I really love is the attention to detail within this. Now, the different variants all have their different names. So the D7C here is Bringer of Destiny from the Klingon Kitkara. The D7G, named Truthbringer, after the Klingon Katala. Then we've got the D7M, which is a standard one, named Bringer of Destruction for the Klingon Katinga. Now, the Katinga class is what we've kind of known the D7 as. So they've incorporated that in here. We've also got the D7R, Bringer of Agony from the Klingon Kitrika. I think that's the only ones. Oh, no, D7S, named Bringer of Justice from the Klingon Kitmara. And I do like the way they've taken the names, which we recognise, and incorporated them in here. Oh, there's, I've spotted another one, the Kataga, which is the D7A. So we've got names for all of them. It'd be nice if they put them here across along with the model numbers, but you can't ask for everything. Then we're going on the D4 Predator class cruiser, which looks like a stretched out, more streamlined version. I'm guessing it's a faster version. D9 Seeker, we'll just keep flicking through. D10 Rixgard, I don't know how to pronounce that quite. Again, with a sort of more angular designs where they've tried to make it look more streamlined and high-tech. But then we come on to the Bird of Prey class. Well, within Star Trek as we know it now, we know there are two versions of the ship. In this book, there are actually three. But in the Star Trek universe as we know it, there's the Burrell, which is the small scout ship which Kirk steals in Star Trek 3 and uses in Star Trek 4. And then there's the Cavort class, which is a larger version which goes up against the Enterprise D a few times, a larger cruiser. Now, they don't get the names here right, so I'm guessing those were only introduced during Next Gen, so after these came out, because this mentions the D-32 Stronger Bird. Class name is from the Klingon Zagava, which translates to Stronger Bird. I skipped over the Death Right, which is another sort of kit bash, looks fairly similar to Klingon ships, just changed around a little. The D2 Sting Tongue, which again is a sort of modernised version of a Klingon ship, but sticking to the primary hull sticking out in front, bridge section, with weapons on it, engines out, outside a larger central body. But the interesting one here, I find, is the D11 One-Wing class destroyer. Now, I do like this, because in the background it mentions that there's a story where Federation people think that the designer was rushed and they completed the ship without completing the other half of the ship. The One Armed Bandit derives obviously from its design. Many jokes circulate through Starfleet concerning the design. The most long-lived of these was the designer was under pressure to have the design completed by a certain date. In order to satisfy his contract and spare his life, goes the story. The manufacturer completed the ship minus the starboard wing assembly. Well, I like that story, because that's basically a story from World War II. You see, there was a German, I think it's a bomber or a scout aircraft. I'll bring the picture up over here. The BV-141, which was a very unbalanced plane. It kind of had its hull and then its cockpit separately, and it looks like half a plane. And that was the story that went amongst the British, that the German designer had only designed half a plane. So the Star Trek writers here have lifted that idea and transferred it to a Klingon ship. I like that. It's quite nice to take real-world events and put a Star Trek spin on them. Probably as they say in the original Shakespearean Klingon, you know. D14 Stinger, again, a sort of more high-tech design. The Swiftwind, which again looks like a very, very streamlined, fast version of the standard Klingon cruiser. I like the way they've done that. The engine's sitting at a slight angle. It really does look good, although looks very thin and possibly fragile. The Gull-class destroyer, don't really like that one. It looks kind of ugly at virtually every one of its angles. Some nice background there. K23 Little Killer Escort class. Again, one of these angular, updated Klingon ships. Now, one of the things I do not like about this, instead of the fold-out section at the back of the Federation book, they've expected you to pull out the centre of the book for the recognition silhouette and the timelines. I don't like that. I'd much rather they put it in the other way round. So the silhouettes would have still made sense when looked at on an individual page. But the timeline could actually be read, because without tearing out the middle pages, you can't read the timeline at all. It's a bit rubbish. What else we got here? The K24 Winner class escort. The Grim Reaper class escort with a single nacelle and a sort of wing assembly. I quite like that. It looks fairly graceful. Got the Defender class frigate, again with the swung forward nacelles. The Sabre, another one of these very angular, more high-tech, supposedly modern designs. Although from Next Generation we know that the Klingon designs did stay fairly blobby and smooth in hulls. There are lots of curves. The Great Bird class frigate, so another one of these designs. Now, it's explained within this book, and I think they kind of use this in the main timeline, that the Romulans had the cloaking devices in the original series, and then they started using Klingon ships later in the original series. And then the Klingons have cloaking devices in the movies. So the background for FASA, they say that there was a technology exchange. The Klingons could make warp drives, because it's mentioned in the original series that Romulans can't travel at warp speeds. They only travel sort of sublight with their birds of prey. So the Klingons gave them warp drive, they gave them construction for much larger ships, and gave them a bunch of the D7 battle cruisers, which the Romulans modified, and in exchange the Klingons got cloaking devices. So the Great Bird of Prey type ship looks more Romulan in design with the bird designs because it's using a lot of Romulan technology. We've got the Calaf Class 2 gunboat, which doesn't look Klingon at all. I do like it. It's a bit trident shaped. Reminds me more of the starfighters out of Ulysses 31, if anyone remembers that old animated series. So I'm kind of drawn to the design, but it doesn't look very Klingon. Another gunboat, very angular. Enforcer class gunboat, that looks a bit more Klingon. Administrator class gunboat, I don't even get what that is. It's not very nice at all. Pathmaker scout, Deathstalker scout, Unseen Creeper scout with a single nacelle down below. We've got the K22 Bird of Praise, so this would be the Burrell class. The Klingon name Degavma is a direct translation for Bird of Prey, so it's not the Burrell class. Oh well, they couldn't have seen the future. K30 rather, Luckless. K32 Strong Victor, which is an interesting looking design. It looks smaller than I would have thought, because it's 110 meters long, but this looks like a cargo ramp coming down in front of it. So it looks like it does land on planetary surfaces. The Baccarate cargo freighter, very similar in concept to the Liberty class fleet ship, which just has a large hangar bay slung below what looks like the rest of a standard Starfleet ship. This time we've got a large cargo bay hung between a standard Klingon ship. Trader's Game cargo freighter. The tugboat class cargo transport, again with the warp nacelles out ahead of it. I'm guessing it kind of carries cargo containers beneath it, kind of drops down and clamps on them. Catapult cargo transport, which I guess is the same. The Kariba class warp shuttle, which is about the ugliest ship I've seen. It does not look like a Klingon shuttle at all. This does. I can definitely see that being a Klingon shuttle. The Federation warp shuttles look like Federation shuttlecraft, but modified for warp drive. The Romulan ones do as well, but this, I don't even know what that looks like. A brick with a warp drive on the back? Not very Klingon at all. We've got repair tenders here. We get the mobile repair facility, very similar to the Starfleet one. A large mobile dry dock for starships with a warp drive attached to it. Now, again, I don't know why you would need those. Why can't a spaceship just float in space while it gets repaired? Why does it need to go into dry dock? In naval encounters, you need to take a ship out of the water so the water can't get into a leaky hull. But it's not like this is a pressurized bay for you to stick a ship in so people can work on it in shirt sleeves. This is just a scaffolding around it so you can light it up properly. Maybe carry damaged ships, so it's more like a tug. I don't really get what the purpose of these are. We've got a defense outpost, which bears some resemblance to the Starfleet ones as well. Sort of central body with large weapon bays sticking out. And then we've got some tokens so you can take place in Starfleet battles. And that is the Klingon Ship Recognition Manual. It's something I really, really like. Lots of lovely drawings in there. Lots of taking from real world situations to make the ships have a history. Lots of lovely drawings. Not all of them, I agree, are perfect. But for 42 new Klingon ships, this is really good. And I do like the way it kind of merges into that period of Star Trek history where the producers of the show hadn't revealed all the information and the writers of the game were able to make up a bunch of stuff, which turned out to prove wrong when writers did create it for the Next Generation series just a few years later. So that was the Klingon Ship Recognition Manual for the Star Trek role-playing game. And with that removed from the poll, we've got a new addition. And I decided to put in this week the Thri-Kreen of Athas sourcebook for the Dark Sun setting in Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 2nd edition. Now, I've got a feeling that's a little more obscure, but then again, Dark Sun is a massively popular setting because it is one of the more interesting ones for Dungeons & Dragons. A setting which is quite far away from traditional fantasy and kind of into post-apocalyptic fantasy, but we'll see how that does. Now, of course, the other books remaining in is the Inquisitor's Handbook for Dark Heresy, the Riggerback book for Shadowrun, which I actually thought would win this week, but didn't, and Lunar Rising for the Trinity role-playing game. And Babylon 5 2nd edition by Mongoose Publishing. Almost forgot that one. So those four are up against Thri-Kreen of Athas, and we'll see who wins. On other channel-related stuff, I'm coming up close to 2,000 subscribers. And I always said that on 2,000 subscribers, I'd do a snack box special, with me and Adam doing some Scottish treats. So lots of sweeties and crisps and things. So that'll be coming up in a couple of weeks' time. But we've fallen behind with the other snack boxes. So I've got one sitting just in front of me here, which is waiting to be done. Me and Adam will do it maybe later today, maybe tomorrow, and we'll get it up in the next few days. And I've actually received an email notification within the last day that the next box itself is coming. So you're going to get 2 or 3 snack boxes in a row, week after week, while I catch back up. Because obviously we weren't doing those because me and Adam were loaded down with a cold. But we're all better now, even though I'm actually feeling a bit sniffly today. But anyway, thank you very, very much for watching as always. But most of all, again, as always, you look after yourselves. And I'll catch you later. Bye now.